Hey folks, I want to talk about cypress-map compared to lodash map, vanilla array map, and ramda, and make a statement that it is so necessary as a part of the retry chains that we have after Cypress version 12. So the example is from Gleb's plugins course. It's lesson 15. I liked it so much. I had to make a video about it. Of course, I took it and played around with it. So at first, I compare regular array map versus lodash versus ramda versus cypress map. Right, so it is the same thing. And in the first test, we're getting a portion of the table. So basically getting these headings, this first row, and then we're making assertions on it. And the statements are in the format that you're super familiar to. So we get a selector, right? And then we shape the data. And at the end, we make an assertion. So statement, shape the data, make assertion. So here is how we would shape this data in the first row in the built-in way. It yields a jQuery element. So we could, if you want, just console log this for a second. That is this, and then I'll use vanilla console log so you can see it. So it is a jQuery element, and we have to shape the data to make it into a format of at the end, we just want this array. Because you would have to dig into each one, you would have to get the text element, and then at the end, get that name, get that date, and then get that age. So we have to do this. It's not always that you have to shape the data. So usually it's just you get the selected and you make an assertion. It's easy, but this is when you have that intermediate complex step where you have to shape the data. And the way we do that, in this case, with built-in Cypress utilities, I'm destructuring jQuery and lodash here to make things shorter. We make that jQuery into an array, use the array map, and then we get the inner text property of that thing. And then at the end, we can also log this here. Then we have that array, right? And then we can make that assertion. So we can do the same thing with lodash. Lodash is also built into Cypress, and it is shorter. So instead of that statement, lodash does some abstractions. It works with objects like it does with arrays. So you can map over an object, which is nice. And for things like jQuery, it has this property shorthand. It just gets that inner text. So instead of something.inner text, you can just do that and get that inner text. I like the lodash version of things because if I compare that to Ramda, so Ramda's plug is like mapping and then getting a property of something just like we do here, map and get a property. It's so popular that they made a shorthand for that called plug. But with Ramda 2, we have to make that array, right? We have to convert that jQuery into an array. And the plug method, the second argument is the data. In Ramda, data is always at the end, which is awesome. Ramda, though, has a nicer way of dealing with data. You just pipe it through your chain. So you get your data here, it gets piped through, data comes, you make it an array, and then you plug the inner text. So this is the shortest and most concise you get out of everything. Okay. And right now, we're not going to see any advantage of Cypress map, but it is shorter than any one of them. So map and inner text, right? So it just shortens all that abstracts it away. It, and usually this is the only thing you need, right? Like otherwise you're just wrestling the data, okay, mapping it, and like here is the only thing that matters is this inner text, right? So it just shortens that, and it does. It is a query command. It will retry to change, but here nothing in the chain is changing, so it's just shorter, right? These one, two, three, four things, five things. Okay, Ramda versus vanilla versus lodash versus cypress map. They do the same thing, but cypress map is the shortest. Now, here is where things get interesting. So Gleb made this example so that when you sort things, it takes a random amount of time before the table sorts itself. Okay, so that simulates a situation that we see all the time with the DOM or data, if you've done API testing, that things are moving, right? Maybe you have eventual consistency in the backend, or you're in the DOM, things are moving, right? And then you're shaping the data. But at the end of your chain, you want that assertion to pass. Why do we love the Cypress API? Because it has this built-in retry capability. It will retry everything through the chain. Why do we love version 12? Because based on this assertion, no matter what the data is, it will retry the chain. So Cypress 12 is built around query commands. That's the magic of it now. It became so much more powerful. Anyway, in this second example, it gets more interesting because in this first part, let's just comment out everything here. Things are static in the first part, right? So if we run it, so basically what this part does is it just gets the column values. So Gleb introduces side table plugin here. Basically, it's like from XY, so the first XY is the starting coordinate in a table, so 0, 0. And then WH is the ending coordinate. So you could get like a portion of the table. You don't always have to define the WH. If you don't define it, it's all the way to the end. So in this example, if I do 2 index 2, so that's 0, 1, 2, all right, and then y coordinate is 1, so here is 0, here is 1, so from this point, which this is 2, 1, all the way to the end, it will grab these guys. So it's super useful plugin. I've actually only seen that I needed something like this once in extend code challenge for esthets. And yeah, without something like this, you have to wrestle things a lot, but this makes it super easier. Anyway, so this just gets these age values. So it's 20, 37, 25. Right? If like you could just console log this without mapping and I see that. Of course, initially it's going to be an array of arrays, so 20, 37, 25, 30. So we'll just get this part. So the goal here is to shape that data and ensure that, okay, it's not sorted. So 20, 37, 25, that's not sorted, right? But how do we shape the data? That's the question. So right now things are static, right? We can use anything. We can use regular built-in array map. So we can just, this is what we do, right? All the time. We just get, when we want to shape data, we just then it, and then we work with it, and then we map everything to a number. And I'll just going to, let's use cap, which will always retry the chain, unlike log or then console log, right? It will keep the chain going. So it's a query command. That's the magic of it. But it will help us with that. So it gets an array of 20, 37, 25, and 30, right? So this works, right? The comparison is a lodash version of it. So side by side, they're similar. So lodash map, and we get the first argument, and then uh, this is the functor, I guess, you apply, right? And then it's the same thing. And with the ramda version, that's going to be the most concise, right? If you compare these three things, it will map everything to a number the same way. And then we can ensure that it's not sorted, right? So if we can't just enable everything here because uh, these three are not query commands, but cypress-map is. So if we try to do like this, or that this still works, that's fine because it doesn't have to retry, right? And if you look at them, right, cypress-map version is the shortest one, is the most concise. Basically, all you're doing is mapping everything to a number. What does the data matter? Like, do you have to yield the data over here and then map over it? You know, that's why I like the Ramda version. But then with cypress-map, that denning is basically denning and then mapping, so it's even nicer than shorter. So this gives you like a very concise version of things where Cypress Map is like so much less code than everything else. But that's not why you really want it, right? You really want it because here's the simple trick that happens. You click this button and then you'll see the table change in a random amount of time, right? So you sort the button and then in some amount of time, it should get sorted, right? So let's do this with built-in table sorting. Okay, so built-in. Since this then command is not a query command, it doesn't retry. Okay, so let's even console log it. Since I'm tapping it, right, it's retrying for 5 seconds, and then we see that it's not there, right? Because this query stayed with the value 20, 37, 25, 30 that it got, and it's not retrying the chain. So this is where Cypress right now is falling short with its built-in feature set because there is no query command to be able to shape your data in your chain. You get your stuff, you make your assertion at the end, you are shaping your data, but that shaping data portion of Cypress doesn't retry. I think it's a huge gap. That's why Cypress map is necessary. I think it should be a part of the core. It doesn't make any difference if you use lodash version, lodash built. And again, I am just destructuring lodash and jQuery out of Cypress so to make it shorter. It's the same story. It doesn't retry. And with ramda, of course, it doesn't retry, right? If we even do the ramda version, it doesn't retry. So here is the simple magic of Cypress map, same as above, shorter code, right? And it will retry until that final assertion is true. That's why it's awesome. Period. That's all I wanted to say today. Um, totally recommend Gleb's course for plugins, for networks. I'll send out the code at the end so you can take a look at that and play around with it. That's all. Enjoy.